Yo, so here we are. It's Monday. We've all been waiting and filled with excitement in the meantime to begin this particular Liber of Crowley's. Check my sound real quick. How is it? Test. Hello? Are you there? Sweet J.
Hello?
There he is, yeah. Cool. Good. So that's working. So that we can get to working. I was wanting to get a little bit of an earlier start today, but it is what it is. It's really not that big of a deal. Mostly just because this one is going to be rather time consuming. This one's about like 30 pages, so that could definitely potentially take us a couple hours. One True Goddess, welcome. Sounds good for you? Okay, excellent. Thank you for the feedback. So yeah, we might be looking at a couple hour stream. Maybe we'll be looking at a two-part stream today and tomorrow. We'll see. We'll just see how the wind blows us or something like that. And we'll see what the tarot shows us real quick before we get started. What is our card today for this HGA reading? All right. Cut the deck. It feels watery to me. Let's see. Nope. It's air. It is the Knight of Swords, which in Crowley's deck is the King of Swords. So he's going to be just so mastered over the mind. That's going to be the fire of air. See here, he carries the two different swords. So he's just ready to chop up whatever comes his way. He's nearly flying through the air on his horse. Perfect. Very good. Once your goddess says Dr. Seuss over here. That's funny. Okay. So let me go ahead and get her opened up. The one we've all been waiting for. Liber Samekh. Samekh being the path connecting Yesod to Tifereth on the Tree of Life, the card of Temperance, or perhaps the art card, depending on what tarot you use. Welcome in, everybody just coming in. Hope you're excited for today's reading. Hey, 9 and 3, 93. Sick. All right, let me grab my drink real quick, and we'll probably just get straight into it. Happy Monday to you all. Happy start of the week. A new week, a clean slate. That's what we love. Nice. Some people coming back later, apparently. They popped in, they dropped a like, they headed out. That's all right. You might be at work. You might be just busy with who knows what. And that's fine. But all the same, love to you and blessings to you. All right. Yeah, because this one's longer, we better get in. I better not yap way too much. Especially because Crowley does his own yapping in here to explain to us some of the things that otherwise you're not going to find in some of the other places where you'll find this particular invocation So Liber Samekh, Theurgia Goetia Summa, Congress cum daimone, subfigura DCCC. D, what's D again? Isn't it 500? So 5, 6, 7, 800? I'm not, I mean, I'm all right with Roman numerals, but I'm not an expert on Roman numerals. His footnote here says, highest goetic theurgy, congress with the daemon. So that doesn't mean that we're doing Goetia here. And the modern understanding of Goetia is just that you're working with demons, but traditionally, that's not all that Goetia meant. Goetia translated into a few things, one of them being sorcery. So you could say this is the highest sorcery of theurgy, congress with the daemon. Another was howling. And that's because when you do contact those more lesser key type of spirits, well, if you know, you know, and you often experience weird howlings and just kind of weird noises, as well as the howling of the abyss. You know, there's a lot of interpretations of these things. All right, so being the ritual employed by the Beast 666 for the attainment of the knowledge and conversation of his holy guardian angel during the semester of his performance of the operation of the sacred magic of Abramelin the Mage. For the text of this invocation, as it first appeared, see Crowley's The Goetia. So that's because it's the invocation of this is the one you'll also find in that Crowley Mathers Goetia, the preliminary invocation, which is basically the bornless ritual or the headless ritual from the stele of Jehu. Prepared Años, I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be for Años. I don't know. 17, Sun in 6 degrees Virgo. Okay. At the Abbey of Thelema in Cephalidium by the B666 in service to Frater Progradior, which would have been, what was his name? Frank Bennett, I believe. That's where this is actually, Crowley wrote this all up for another guy by the name of Frank Bennett. So for him specifically to attain the knowledge of and conversation of the Holy Guardian Angel, which he was successful at least if I'm remembering the stories correctly. Mathra, what up? Welcome. Good to see you. Today's the day we've been waiting for. Hope you're doing swell. Oh, I wanted to double check with you too. You were telling me Eye in the Pyramid. You were meaning Robert Anton Wilson, right? The Illuminatus trilogy, or were you referring to a different book, Eye in the Pyramid? So, official publication of AA, Class D for the grade of Adeptus Minor. And the Class D texts are going to just be all of your instructional texts. So, anything that's like, here's how you draw your pentagrams, here's how you call up your holy guardian angel, the methods for doing things usually fall in Class D. Since our last one we did, Liber Het, was Class A. And you can easily find online the different things, the different ways of the different classes and what they mean for this. It's all pretty much online, which, speaking of which, if you would like to read and follow along, you can easily Google Liber Samekh. But if you just want to listen, that's totally fine too. Okay, point 1. Evangelii Textus Redactus. Restored text of the gospel is what that translates to. The invocation magically restored with the significance of the barbarous names, etymologically or kabbalistically determined and paraphrased in English. Oh, okay. Mathar says no. Israel Regardi's Crowley biography. Oh, okay. Sick. Well, nope. I'll have to definitely check that one out. I was still down if it was the Robert Anton Wilson because I've heard that Illuminatus trilogy is some gold as well. All right. I better leave that kind of like that. There, that ought to do it for us. And is the music, you can hear the music, not too loud, not too quiet? Well, while I wait, I'm sure one of you is typing to me right now. This should be good, but I just like to double check with you guys. Once your God says music sounds perfect. Okay, thank you so much. All right, so section A, the oath. And Mothra says, yeah, I love Illuminatus trilogy. It alchemized my brain. Heck yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, that one I know is, even though it's a fictional story, it's still got a lot of very wonderful things in it, at least from what I've heard. But I can't speak from having read it. All right, so the oath, and this is that preliminary invocation you would find in the Goetia. I wonder why you would do this before you would start working with those spirits. One thing else, real quick, about those spirits is the whole point of that book and that magic was to bind the spirits. Sorry, sorry for everybody who wants to like work with them in a different way. That was the whole point. So this more modern interpretation of demonolatry and treating them like they're your buddy and all that, we honestly don't have like enough to back up that that's a very viable way of doing this. I mean, even if people are having success at it, that still we still just don't really, historically speaking, have a whole lot to go off that this is actually a very solid way of doing things. And all I'm saying is if I was a demon, I would certainly want to like convince people, oh yeah, don't like call me up and bind me in this way. Like just I don't know, just invoke me without without a circle even and all of that, or evoke me or whatever. But I mean, what? All right, that's all I'm gonna really say. Anyway, let's get to reading. Section A, the oath. Thee I invoke, the bornless one. Thee that didst create the earth and the heavens, thee that didst create the night and the day, thee that didst create the darkness and the light. Thou art Asar un Nefer, which means myself made perfect, whom no man hath seen at any time. Thou art Eabeses, which is the truth in matter. Thou art Ea Apophrases, the truth in motion. Thou hast distinguished between the just and the unjust. Thou didst make the female and the male. Thou didst produce the seed and the fruit. Thou didst form men to love one another and to hate one another. I am Ankefeng Khonsu, thy prophet, unto whom thou didst commit thy mysteries, thy mysteries, the ceremonies of Khem. Thou didst produce the moist and the dry, and that which nourisheth all created life. Hear thou me, for I am the angel of Ptah Apophrasis Ra. And he says, by the rubric, this is thy true name handed down to the prophets of Khem. Mothra says, do you follow the Solomonic tradition for Goetia? I mean, yeah, kind of, sorta, but not in like the Poke Runyon type of way. Here's the way the way I've gone about this is that some of these spirits have just kind of pulled up on me. But like I said, I've prayed in the first place for guidance all along. Once I got guidance that led me towards those things, then I started kind of looking at different spirits that might be worth working with. You know what I mean? Some of them kind of showed up, and even still, you could say I was kind of guarded about, So yeah, and then, but at least in the formula of the circle, triangle, evocation, and all that, definitely. But then, then these spirits have also done things like straight up told me, oh, hey, so that you don't like screw yourself up, you should certainly figure out about these angels too, that quote unquote balance out the energy. Because if some of this is supposed to be looked at as like a battery with a positive and a negative aspect, well, yeah, you do need both ends to make the battery work. But if just one end is going, then it's just not, it ain't gonna really be so great. You know what I mean? But I don't have like I mean, I have my magical tools and all that, but like I said, that like Poke Runyon or some of these other people who do it like very to the letter, you could say, of the traditional Solomonic way. I wouldn't say that I do it that way. And the thing is, I don't even necessarily want to speak on it like an expert, and so that's why it kind of irks me to see other people who, if you pay enough attention to, also probably shouldn't be speaking on it like they're an expert, out here just teaching on it and telling everybody else, oh yeah, just do it this way, you'll be fine, when they've also said other things that very much contradict that. But hey, I'm gonna just leave that at that. I feel you. Yeah. So that's also why I think it would be much more wise for me to hop on here and say, "Hey, just call up your angel." You know what I mean? Get back to praying. Don't be afraid to pray to whatever you want to call the big G, God, the Lord above. Get in touch with that angel, because that angel is going to guide you appropriately. And another thing the haters don't want to hear is, most of the people who get in contact with that angel, the angel very much tells them to kind of go about the Abra Melon way of, yeah, you need to call these demons up, you need to bind them. And what that, what that really means is that they are going to have ways in which they're going to be beneficial to you. They're going to be helpful to you, but they also have ways they're going to screw you up. And so what you're trying to do is basically lock up those aspects that are going to screw you up, so you only get the beneficial aspects. All right, so section B, air, the element of air. Hear me, awe, which is O breathing, flowing sun. So I'll say real quick too that when you do this invocation normally, all this other stuff here isn't normally there. So Crowley's actually explaining what these words mean, that ultimately are kind of supposed to be those, well, they're the barbarous names, but also they're supposed to kind of put you in that more altered state of consciousness. I'm definitely going to link with this video where Lon Milo Duquette he breaks this down in his Magic of Thelema, or Magic of Aleister Crowley, I guess, depending on which version of the book you have. It's the same book, but it had two different titles depending on the edition. He goes through all this, and that's another reason why Lon hasn't really written up his own version of a book of, here's how to do the pentagram, here's how to, because he was smart enough to realize Crowley already did all this. So the very best I could do is maybe just explain it in the ways that Crowley did it. And so that's what's going to be in the Magic of Thelema or the Magic of Aleister Crowley, is that the rest of his books are a lot more just him kind of telling stories of his life and experiences in magic, and that to me seems way more beneficial than everybody just needing to feed their ego, let's be honest, and write the same book over and over and over and over again. You know what I mean? That book is excellent for sure. So yeah, if you're coming to this later on and you've made it through this first 20 minutes of me yapping and barely reading, then I'm gonna go ahead and link that. Well, probably because it's a handful of videos where Lon goes over this exact thing. He goes over Liber Samekh, but he goes over it in a way that makes it even more understandable, and explains the way you would work through it even better. And so I can kind of save myself some time there, and just direct you to him, because I mean, he's been doing magic and teaching magic longer than pretty much all of us have been alive. And he does Goetia, but he does it in that Solomonic circle triangle, bind up the spirit, all of that type of way. You know what I mean? So, hey, if other people want to, I don't know, jeopardize themselves, because these spirits are dangerous. Like, let's be straight up. These spirits are, it's like my Illuminati buddy says, it's like a lion or a tiger. It's not that you can't train those animals and potentially be safe around those animals, but also those animals are pretty likely to rip your head off and just tear you up. You know what I mean? So you need to really know what you're doing, and you need to understand that no matter what, you're playing with fire a little bit. You're accepting a certain amount of risk and danger. Coop TGS, yo, welcome in. Glad you're here. Now that you're here, I better get to reading. So I'll start it again. So section B is air, the element of air. And you'll say, hear me, R, which is O breathing, flowing sun. Fiao, Even though it has the F there, he says down here that it's supposed to represent the letter Hebrew letter Vowel and sounds like between a long O and a long OO, so as in rope or tooth. So Thiao, O son Iao, O lion serpent, the beast, that whirlest forth a thunderbolt begetter of life. Reabet, thou that flowest, thou that goest. Athelaberset, thou Satan's son, Hadith, that goest without will. And Lon does a really good job of explaining the purpose of Crowley putting Satan and some of that stuff that's going to freak people out for sure in there. But again, I'm going to direct you to him because he's just going to do it better than me. He already did do it, and but I'll at least say that for anybody who isn't super familiar or gets a little freaked out hearing things like Satan, you don't really need to be. You know what I mean? It's all symbols. It's all magical formula. Okay. Ah, thou air, breath, spirit, thou without bound or bond. Baletha, thou essence, air swift streaming, elasticity. Abeu, thou wanderer, father of all. Ebeu, thou wanderer, spirit of all. Fi titasoe, thou shining force of breath, thou lion serpent son, thou savior, save. Ebe, thou ibis, secret solitary bird, inviolate wisdom, whose word is truth, creating the world by its magic. Thiao, O son Iao, O lion serpent son, the beast that whirlest forth a thunderbolt, begetter of life. The conception is of air, glowing, inhabited by a solar phallic bird, the Holy Ghost of a mercurial nature. Then you'll say, hear me and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. Okay, section C, fire. I'll say too, I'm not going to judge. Everybody's path is their own. And so, you got to do what you got to do. But that's what I'm going to stress, doing things like prayer for guidance. Because if you're actually feeling that the Spirit, the Lord, is guiding you to these things, then take the time to learn about them, still kind of move accordingly, but make sure you know what you're doing. I just see a lot of people who quickly decide that they're the master of things because they've just, I don't know, watched a bunch of reels of other people who equally think they're the master of things, and it's just the blind leading the blind, and a lot of people who are misleading people. And I certainly want to do my best to avoid that. But hey, I'll admit that I'm kind of at least I'll be honest with you that I'm kind of like the one eye poked out leading the blind. But I'm still doing my best and trying to be real with everybody. You know what I mean? Rather than acting like I'm some type of expert. And that's why I'm going to recommend that you just go to the experts because I mean that's what I've done, and so that's the only reason I'm even as at the level I'm at. You know what I mean? Otherwise, I probably would have fallen into those same type of traps of just I don't know, watching a bunch of people who have on TikTok tried to teach magic or even YouTube, whatever, Reddit, all of that. And it's like at the end of the day, a lot of these people just don't know what they're talking about, or they kind of know what they're talking about. But all right. Section C, fire. I invoke thee, the terrible and invisible God, who dwellest in the void place of the spirit. Orogo goro bra abrao. Thou spiritual son, Satan, thou eye, thou lust, cry aloud, whirl the wheel, O my father, O Satan, O son. Sotou, thou the Savior, Mudorio, silence, give me thy secret. Falarthao, give me suck, thou phallus, thou son. Oh, Satan, thou eye, thou lust, Satan, thou eye, thou lust, Satan, thou eye, thou lust. Ape, thou self-caused, self-determined, exalted Most High, the Bornless One. The conception is of fire glowing, inhabited by a solar phallic lion of an Uranian nature. Hear me and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God, may be obedient unto me. Section D. Water. Hear me, Ru Abra Iao, thou the wheel, thou the womb, that containeth the Father, Iao, Mario Dom, thou the sea, the abode, Babylon, Baal bin Abaft, Babylon, thou woman of whoredom, thou gate of the great God On, thou lady of the understanding of the ways. Asalonai, hail thou, the unstirred, hail, sister and bride of On, of the God that is all and is none, by the power of 11. Apheniao, thou treasure of Iao. E, thou virgin, twin-sexed, thou secret seed, thou inviolate wisdom. Photeth, abode of the light. Abrasax, of the Father, the Son, of Hadit, of the spell of the Aeon of Horus. Aeo, Our Lady of the Western Gate of Heaven. Ischore, mighty art thou, mighty and bornless one. The conception is of water, glowing, inhabited by a solar phallic dragon serpent, of a Neptunian nature. Hear me and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. Sick. Right, because do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. So, at the end of the day, that is what time it is. But, like I said too about the wild animal thing, that's why mostly I work with goddesses, to be honest with you. I have the few primary goddesses I work with who have also helped me to not really F myself up. You know what I mean? And then I've got spirits that can be considered demonic. But then, like I said, they straight up told me, hey, you're going to want to check out these angels traditionally that kind of are the opposite end of this battery. But, I get that some people have just chucked that out and said, "Oh, that's nonsense. I can't find anything that says that that's accurate." Or some people just don't even look. At least some people are out here doing the research and trying to figure it and doing their best to figure it out. But if the spirits themselves told me to do this, there you go. Section E is Earth. I invoke thee, Ma, O Mother, O Truth, Bara'io, thou Mass. And Mass, he says, in the sense of the word which is used by physicists. The impossibility of defining it will not deter the intrepid initiate, in view of the fact that the fundamental conception is beyond the normal categories of reason. Eol, hail thou that art. Kotha, thou hollow one. Athorebalo, thou goddess of beauty and love, whom Satan beholding desireth. Abraft, the fathers, male, female, desire thee. The conception is of earth, glowing, inhabited by a solar phallic hippopotamus of a venereal nature. And he says the hippopotamus sacred to Ahathur. The idea is that of the female conceived as invulnerable, reposeful, of enormous swallowing capacity, etc. Hear me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. I'm also going to link, there's a website that has all of these different invocations side by side. It's got the Stele of Jehu, the Bornless Ritual, Liber, Samekh, and all of that. So that between that and the Lon Milo Duquette, you guys should have a pretty good understanding. It might be a little bit of a homework project, but it's going to be one well worth your time. And it's not like it's going to take that long. I mean, you could really do it in like 2 days. Section F, Spirit. Hear me, oft, male female spirits, oft, male female sires, Basam, ye that are gods going forth uttering Om. He say the word that goeth from A, free breath, U, through willed breath, M, and stopped breath, GN, to continuous breath. So that's gonna actually, I think that's gonna sound like more like Amen than Om, thus symbolizing the whole course of spiritual life. A is the formless zero. U is the sixfold solar sound of physical life, the triangle of soul being entwined with that of body. M is the silence of death, and GN is the nasal sound of generation and knowledge. And so there's your God with a R at the end, I guess, because it's generator, operator, destroyer, regenerator. K. Isak, identical point. Sabath, Nuit, Hadit, Rahor Kuit. Iao, hail, great wild beast. Hail, Iao. Section FF. This is the Lord of the gods. This is the Lord of the universe. This is he whom the winds fear. This is he who, having made voice by his commandment, is Lord of all things, king, ruler, and helper. Hear me and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land and in the water, of whirling air and of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. Section G, Spirit. Hear me, Ie-O-U, indwelling son of myself. Pure, thou fire, thou sixfold star initiator, compassed about with force and fire. Io-U, indwelling soul of myself. Pure, thou fire, thou sixfold star initiator, compassed about with force and fire. Iaot, sun, lion, serpent, hail. All hail, thou great wild beast, thou Iao. Iaeo, breaths of my soul, breaths of mine angel. Ioo, lust of my soul, lust of mine angel. Abrasax, of the Father, the Son, of Hadit, of the spell of the Aeon of Horus. Sabrayam, ho for the Sangral, which is the Holy Grail. Ho for the cup of Babylon. Ho for mine angel pouring himself forth within my soul. Oh, the eye, Satan, my lord, the lust of the goat. Ooh, mine angel, mine initiator, thou won with me the sixfold star. Adonai. And down here he's given a little, he says in Hebrew, Adonai 65, Gnostic initiates transliterated it to imply their own secret formula. We will follow so excellent an example. On is an arcanum of arcana, so a secret of secrets. Its significance is taught gradually in the OTO. Also, ad is the paternal formula. Hadit, on is its complement. Nui, the final yo, and Lon explains this stuff. So that's definitely, so I'm definitely gonna, you definitely want to go check that out. The final yod signifies mine etymologically, and essentially the mercurial transmitted hermaphroditic virginal seed, the hermit of the tarot. The use of the name is therefore to invoke one's own inmost secrecy, considered as the result of the conjunction of Nuit and Hadith. If the second A is included, it is important. Its import is to affirm the operation of the Holy Ghost and the formulation of the babe in the egg, which precedes the appearance of the hermit. Right there, babe in the egg. Shout out Tatwashuti. Shout out Travis Makers. We love you, Travis. We missed you again this last weekend. Hope you're doing all right. Hope everything's okay. I know it is. I see you posting, but that's all right. We'll catch you for the last bit of cosmic doctrine soon enough. All right, so Adonai, my Lord, my secret self beyond self, Hadid, all Father, hail on thou Son, thou life of man, thou fivefold sword of flame, thou goat exalted upon earth in lust, thou snake extended upon the earth in life, Spirit most holy, seed most wise, innocent babe, inviolate maid, begetter of being, light of life, love and liberty, soul of all souls, world of all worlds, come forth, most hidden light. Ede, devour thou me. Edu, thou dost devour me. Angelos ton theon, thou angel of the gods. Anlala, arise thou in me, free flowing, thou who art not, and utter thy word. Lie, I also am not. I will thee. I behold thee, my nothingness. Gaia, leap up, thou earth. And he says, this is also an agonizing appeal to the earth, the mother. For at this point of the ceremony, the adept should be torn from his mortal attachments and die to himself in the orgasm of his operation. A thorough comprehension of psychoanalysis will contribute notably to the proper appreciation of this ritual. Ape, thou exalted one, it, and by it he says the spiritual semen, the adept's secret ideas, drawn irresistibly from their hell by the love of his angel. It leaps up, it leaps forth, and but compare the use of the same word in section C. Diathana, Thoron, lo, the outsplashing of the seeds of immortality. And section GG, the attainment. I am he, the bornless spirit, having sight in the feet, strong, and the immortal fire. I am he, the truth. I am he who hate that evil should be wrought in the world. I am he that lightningeth, he has it as lighteneth and thundereth. I am he from whom is the shower of the life of earth. I am he whose mouth ever flameth. I am he, the begetter and manifester unto the light. I am he, the grace of the world. The heart girt with a serpent is my name. All right. And then lastly, for the first point, section H, the charge to the spirit. Come thou forth and follow me, and make all spirits subject unto me, so that every spirit of the firmament and of the ether, upon the earth and under the earth, on dry land or in the water, of whirling air or of rushing fire, and every spell and scourge of God may be obedient unto me. And section J, the proclamation of the beast 666. Iao Sabao, such are the words. Amen. Okay, so that's the first one. If I remember right, this is split into three parts, and so it's actually even we got little bit more, or quite a bit more reading now in through here. And I feel like I actually forgot to mention something. Yeah, so at this part here, which I'm pretty sure Lon explains too, where he in section AA when he said, "I am Onkufin Konsu, thy prophet." So like that's where you'll want to put your own magical name. So I would say, "I am Baudel, thy prophet." And then where he has the ceremonies of Kem, then you'll want to put your where you either maybe you were born or where you reside most. I guess kind of wherever you resonate with the most. So say maybe you were born, I don't know, in the Northeast, New York or something, but then you moved down to the South somewhere, maybe Florida, and it just resonates with you way more. It's the place that is your place, you could say. Then feel free to do that. But Lon will also explain that. He'll also explain he just makes this a lot more easy to follow and to make practical. But we're still going to do this here so that we've got a good little playlist of Crowley and HGA type. Okay, so point 2. And I need a drink. That invocation is thirsty work. And there's some other content creators out there too. Like I said, I'll probably make a playlist. I've just been a bit busy because when I'm not doing this, then I'll be working or obviously doing my own practice type of stuff. But of other creators who have had some pretty good things to say about HGA, different HGA operations. I know that there's some of them who are even Thelemites who don't necessarily love Liber Samekh. Me personally, I don't do the specific Liber Samekh invocation. I like to go with what was in the PGM, but that's just me. All right, so point 2, ars congress cum daemone, the art of congress with the daemon. Section A. So he's going to break down now what you should be doing, and so when you're in section A, he's going to break down what type of stuff you should be doing. So that's another reason why we already did what we did, so that hopefully some of you have at least a little bit of experience now trying to draw out different pentagrams and maybe a little bit of astral work. Definitely, hopefully some of the dharana and pranayama and clairvoyant stuff as well. Because you are supposed to kind of build yourself up to this point. Like I said, this isn't typically a super advanced thing, but it's also not a beginner thing. You know what I mean? But I'd rather have, but I see other people doing beginner work with these more dangerous type of spirits, and this spirit's certainly not going to be dangerous to you. This spirit is like the main one you want to be trying to connect with and work with. And if not, then in the words of a now deceased but very lovely friend, work with goddesses. Work with goddesses. Even though there are some of them that are kind of, you like Kali, for example. She's gonna really she's gonna be a little more tough going than say Aphrodite. Okay, section A. Let the Adeptus Minor be standing in his circle on the square of Tiferet, armed with his wand and cup, but let him perform the ritual throughout in his body of light. So yeah, all of this is also typically done in the mind, and aka the body of light. Lon explains that all so very well. And where he's talking about the square of Tiferet is because you'd also have a circle on the ground with the Tau cross in it, which would be built up of all those different squares, the 10 different squares making the T or the Tau cross, each one also representing a different Sephiroth on the tree of life. He may burn the cakes of light or the incense of Abramelin. He may be prepared by Liber 175, the reading of Liber LXV, Liber 65, and by the practices of yoga. He may invoke Hadith by wine and strange drugs, if he so will. And down here it says, any such formula should be used only when the adept has full knowledge based on experience of the management of such matters. He prepares the circle by the usual formulae of banishing and consecrating, etc. He recites section A as a rehearsal before his holy guardian angel of the attributes of that angel. Each phrase must be realized with full concentration of force, so as to make samadhi as perfectly as possible upon the truth proclaimed. Line 1. He identifies his angel with the Ein Sof and the Kether thereof, one formulation of Hadith in the boundless body of Nuit. Line 2, 3, and 4. He asserts that his angel has created, for the purpose of self-realization through projection in conditioned form, 3 pairs of opposites: A, the fixed and the volatile; B, the unmanifested and the manifest; and C, the unmoved and the moved. Otherwise, the negative and the positive in respect of matter, mind, and motion. Coop TGS says Crowley experienced knowledge and conversation by doing his rituals in his head while riding a donkey through China. Yeah, definitely. And he was so locked in on him that he didn't realize him and his donkey had fallen down a small hill or even a small cliffside. So that's the kind of focus you need to be having. That's why we want to make sure we are pretty adept at skills such as like Dharana and Dhyana, as well as the astral and clairvoyant type of stuff. Okay, line 5. He acclaims his angel as himself made perfect, adding that this individuality is inscrutable and inviolable. In the neophyte ritual of Golden Dawn, let's see. Okay, and he just says that is printed in the Temple of Solomon the King in Equinox 1, Chapter 2 for the Old Aeon. That's where some of this can get, some of this different magic and what different people, especially kind of more at this time and from after. Like, I get that some of it is more old Aeon stuff and some of it is I guess you could say more new Aeons ideas. But make sure you really familiarize yourself and understand a lot of that. So that's where I don't totally discourage the armchair stuff, but you should still be practicing along with it. Like they say, you should be doing 2/3 practice and 1/3 study. You know, honestly, I probably am more like 2/3 study and 1/3 practice. Well, probably more like 50-50, really. But I'm not going to totally discourage if a lot of you are also a little more heavy on the study, but still be doing the practice, still be putting in some work, you know what I mean? But definitely make sure you get yourself a pretty good, solid, firm understanding, and that's going to just take time. That's going to take a lot of reading, and there is a lot of good content that's been created out there of people also teaching who definitely know what they're talking about. In this group, we definitely have at least one of those. Shout out again to you, Travis. Thank you very much for all you do. My gnosis is pretty great as well. I just, he's been a lot more on the yoga side of things than some of this type of stuff. So, but that's still very important. Um, my practice has just benefited so greatly from having that yogic understanding along with the magical stuff. So I don't discourage that one bit. All right. The Hierophant is the perfected Osiris, who brings the candidate, the natural Osiris, to identity with himself. But in the new Aeon, the Hierophant is Horus. And he says, oh, okay, that's not one to read. A lot of this stuff, these footnotes, I'm going to check because there's going to be a lot of stuff that will be important to read, but a few of them where it's just referencing to other books or whatever. Therefore, the candidate will be Horus too. What then is the formula of the initiation of Horus? It will no longer be that of the man through death. So like the crucified cross, or obviously Osiris being the more original myth of that. It will be the natural growth of the child. His experiences will no more be regarded as catastrophic. Their hieroglyph is the fool. The innocent and impotent Harpocrates babe becomes the Horus adult by obtaining the wand. Der Rein Thor. That's German, yeah, it definitely is. The pure fool. Nice. Seizes the sacred lance. Bacchus becomes Pan. So that's actually going to be Ryan. Oh, wait, no, there's no H there. So yeah, Der Rein Thor seizes the sacred lance. Bacchus becomes Pan. The holy guardian angel is the unconscious creature self, the spiritual phallus. His knowledge and conversation contributes occult puberty. It is therefore advisable to replace the name Asar un Nefer by that of Rahor Kuit at the outset. and by that of one's own holy guardian angel when it has been communicated. So there you go. If you still haven't developed a magical name for yourself of some type or another, then he advises, rather than that Asar and Nefer, to put the name of Rahor Queet, a name of Horus, in there. Line 6, he hails him as Besses, the matter that destroys and devours Godhead for the purpose of the incarnation of any God. Line 7, he hails him as Apophrases, the motion that destroys and devours Godhead for the purpose of the incarnation of any God. The combined action of these two devils is to allow the God upon whom they prey to enter into enjoyment of existence through the sacrament of individual life. Bread, the flesh of Besses, is what the life is, and love being wine, the blood or venom of Apophrases. Line 8. He acclaims his angel as having eaten of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, otherwise having become wise in the dyad Hokmah, to apprehend the formula of equilibrium which is now his own, being able to apply himself accurately to his self-appointed environment. Line 9. He acclaims his angel as having laid down the law of love as the magical formula of the universe, that he may resolve the phenomena again into its noumenal phase by uniting any two opposites in ecstatic passion. Okay. Line 10. He acclaims his angel as having appointed that this formula of love should effect not only the dissolution and separateness of the lovers into his own impersonal Godhead, but their coordination in a child, quintessentialized from its parents to constitute a higher order of being than theirs, so that each generation is an alchemical progress towards perfection in the direction of successive complexities. As line 9 asserts involution, line 10 asserts evolution. Line 11. He acclaims his angel as having devised this method of self-realization. The object of incarnation is to obtain articulate apprehension of the soul by measuring its reactions to its relations with other incarnated beings, and to observe theirs with each other. Section AA. Line 1. The adept asserts his right to enter into conscious communication with his angel, on the ground that that angel has himself taught him the secret magic by which he may make the proper link. Moshe, which is Moses, is MH, the formulation. In Yehida, Chaya, Neshima, Ruach, the Sephiroth from Kether to Yesod, since 45 is sigma 1 to 9, while Sheen 300 is sigma 1 to 24, which superadds to these 9 an extra 15 numbers. 45 is moreover ADM, man. Moshe is thus the name of man as a God concealing form, but in the ritual, let the adept replace this Moshe by his own motto as Adeptus Minor. For Israel, let him prefer his own magical race, according to the obligations of his oaths to our holy order. The B666 himself used Ankef and Kansu and Kem in this section. The adept, for line 2, the adept reminds his angel that he has created that one substance of which Hermes hath written in the table of emerald, whose virtue is to unite in itself all opposite modes of being, thereby to serve as a talisman charged with the spiritual energy of existence, an elixir or stone composed of the physical basis of life. This commemoration is placed between the two personal appeals to the angel, as if to claim privilege to partake of this Eucharist, which createth, sustaineth, and redeemeth all things. Line 3. He now asserts that he is himself the angel or messenger of his angel, That is, that he is a mind and body whose office is to receive and transmit the word of his angel. He hails his angel not only as Un-Nefer, the perfection of Asar, himself as a man, but as Ptah, Apophrasis Ra, the identity, Hadit, wrapped in the dragon, Nuit, and thereby manifested as a son, Ra Horquit. The egg, or heart, girt with a serpent, is a cognate symbol or cognate symbol. The idea is thus expressed later in the ritual. Okay, says C Liber LXV, which expands this to the utmost. Section B. The adept passes from contemplation to action in the sections now following. B to GG. He is to travel astrally around the circle, making the appropriate pentagrams, sigils, and signs. His if any of you have a hard time with visualizing, so maybe you're not so pro, well, that's also part of the idea between do or part of the idea by doing your pentagram rituals and stuff is that it's a method for strengthening that, making that all better the more you do it, because you're supposed to also be visualizing that in your mind, right? So visualizing it and doing it astrally, so it's going to get stronger the more and more you do it. And then also if you do some of those methods like from Ophiel's Art and Practice of Astral Projection that Travis read, that's going to help you as well. Some of what Crowley, we've already gone over with Crowley, obviously. But there's also a method called, I think it's called image streaming, if I remember right, where you say whatever it is you're supposed to be visualizing. So it might help you to say out loud whatever it is, or even in your own head to just say whatever it is um, that you're supposed to be visualizing it to kind of help conjure up the image. Let's see, I was down here. His direction is Widdershin, which is counterclockwise. He thus makes three curves, each covering 3/4 of the circle. He should give the sign of the enterer on passing the Qibla, or direction of bullskin. Okay. And Bullskin House is in Scotland, so that's like the Thelemites version of East. So whether you're AAOTO, whatever, they'll say to that Bullskin House is going to be like your version of East, basically. And you can just search on maps where that is, and it'll bring it up. So that way you can kind of get an idea. If otherwise just faced east, but if you want to do the bullskin thing, then there you go. This picks up the force naturally radiating from that point and projects it in the direction of the path of the magician. And he says the sigils are those given in the Equinox 1:7, plate X outside the square, the signs, those shown in the Equinox. Okay. In these invocations, he should, and I swear Lond has those in his book, so he shows you what they're supposed to look like. I could be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure he does. So all the more reason to go check that out. In these invocations, he should expand his girth and his stature to the utmost, assuming the form and the consciousness of the elemental god of the quarter. After this, he begins to vibrate the barbarous names of the ritual. Now let him not only fill his whole being to the uttermost with the force of the names, but let him formulate his will, understood thoroughly as the dynamic aspect of his creative self. In an appearance symbolically apt, I say not in the form of a ray of light, of a fiery sword, or of aught save that bodily vehicle of the Holy Ghost, which is sacred to Baphomet, by its virtue that concealeth the lion and the serpent, that his image may appear adorably upon the earth forever. Then let the adept extend his will beyond the circle in this imagine shape, and let it radiate with the light proper to the element invoked, and let each word issue along the shaft with passionate impulse, as if its voice gave command thereto that it should thrust itself leapingly forward. Let also each word accumulate authority, so that the head of the shaft may plunge twice as far for the second word as for the first, and four times for the third as the second, and thus to the end. Moreover, let the adept fling forth his whole consciousness thither. Then, at the final word, let him bring rushing back his will within himself, steadily streaming, and let him offer himself to its point, as Artemis to Pan, that this perfectly pure concentration of the element purge that this perfectly pure concentration of the element purge him thoroughly and possess him with its passion. In this sacrament being wholly at one with that element, let the adept utter the charge, hear me and make, etc., with the strong sense that this unity with that quarter of the universe confers upon him the fullest freedom and privilege appurtenant thereto. So embodying that element, if you're not following in that quarter, whichever one you're in, whatever element it is, he's saying that you're going to want to embody as you are making this charge. Let the adept take note of the wording of the charge. The firmament is the ruach, the mental plane. It is the realm of Shu or Zeus, where revolves the wheel of the gunas, or the three forms of being. And he has down here a pretty good note. Oh boy, that's a big note. That's all right. We'll read it anyway because that's important. They correspond to the sulfur, mercury, and salt of alchemy, to sattva, rajas, and tamas in the Hindu system, and are rather modes of action than actual qualities, even when conceived as latent. They are the apparatus of communication between the planes. As such, they are conventions. There is no absolute validity in any means of mental apprehension. But unless we make these spirits of the firmament subject to unto us by establishing right relations within the possible limits with the universe, we shall fall into error when we develop our new instrument of direct understanding. It is vital that the adept should train his intellectual faculties to tell him the truth, in the measure of their capacity. To despise the mind on account of its limitations is the most disastrous blunder. It is the common cause of the calamities which strew so many shores with the wreckage of the mystic armada. Yeah, peep that for sure. Bigotry, arrogance, bewilderment, all forms of mental and moral disorder, so often observed in people of great spiritual attainment, have brought the path itself into discredit. Yeah, what have I already been yapping about in this stream? Almost all such catastrophes are due to trying to build the temple of the spirit without proper attention to the mental laws of structure and the physical necessities of foundation. The mind must be brought to its utmost pitch of perfection, but according to its own internal properties. One cannot feed a microscope on mutton chops. It must be regarded as a mechanical instrument of knowledge, independent of the personality of its possessor. Ho ho ho. One must treat it exactly as one treats one's electroscope or one's eyes. One must guard against the danger of disturbance due to the influence of one's wishes. A physician calls in a colleague to attend to his own family, knowing that the personal anxiety may derange his judgment. A microscopist who trusts his eyes when his pet theory is at stake may falsify the facts and find too late that he has made a fool of himself. In the case of initiation itself, history is scarred with the wounds inflicted by this dagger. It re- and by this dagger, I love Crowley definitely in the same way as Fortune, but maybe a little better. I don't know. Depends on who you're asking. Had that really poetic way of speaking. He was very much a master of the English language, and so nothing he said was by accident. That's for sure. It reminds us constantly of the danger of relying upon the intellectual faculties. A judge must know the law in every point and be detached from personal prejudices, and incorruptible or iniquity will triumph. Dogma, with persecution, delusion, paralysis of progress, and many another evil as its straps, satraps, has always established a tyranny when genius has proclaimed it. Islam making a bonfire of written wisdom, and Haeckel forging biological evidence. Physicists ignorant of radioactivity disputing the conclusions of geology, and theologians impatient of truth struggling against the tide of thoughts. All such must perish at the hands of their own error in making their minds internally defective or externally deflected the measure of the universe. Yeah, and we see that in certain conspiracy theories, you know what I mean? Especially some of these really pseudosciency type of ones in this modern day and age. Oh boy. Okay, where were we before? We were down here because he was talking about the Gunas. So I'll just start this one back. So he said, let the adept take note of the wording of the charge. The firmament is the ruach, the mental plane. It is the realm of Shu or Zeus, where revolves the wheel of the gunas, the three forms of being. The ether is the akasha, the spirit, the ether of physics, which is the framework on which all forms are founded. It receives, records, and transmits all impulses without itself suffering mutation thereby. The earth is the sphere wherein the operation of these fundamental and etheric forces appears to perception. Under the earth is the world of those phenomena which inform those perceived projections and determine their particular character. Dry land is the place of dead material things, dry, i.e., unknowable, because unable to act on our minds. Water is the vehicle whereby we feel such things, air, their menstruum, wherein these feelings are mentally apprehended. It is called whirling because of the instability of thought and the fatuity of reason, on which we are yet dependent for what we call life. Rushing fire is the world in which wandering thought burns up to swift darting will. These four stages explain how the non ego is transmuted into the ego. A spell of God is any form of consciousness, and a scourge any form of action. The charge as a whole demands for the adept the control of every detail of the universe which his angel has created as a means of manifesting himself to himself. It covers command of the primary projection of the possible individuality. In the antithetical artifice, which is the device of the mind, and in a balanced triplicity of modes or states of being whose combinations constitute the characteristics of cosmos. It includes also a standard of structure, a rigidity to make reference possible. Upon these foundations of condition, which are not things in themselves, but the canon or code to which things conform, is builded the temple of being, whose materials are themselves perfectly mysterious, inscrutable as the soul, and like the soul, imagining themselves by symbols which we may feel, perceive, and adapt to our use without ever knowing the whole truth about them. The adept sums up all of these items by claiming authority over every form of expression possible to existence. Sick. Whether it be a spell, idea, or a scourge, act of God, that is, of himself. The adept must accept every spirit, every spell, every scourge as part of his environment and make them all subject to himself. That is, consider them as contributory causes of himself, as contributory causes of himself. They have made him, man, reading these books out loud, sometimes I'll just say words really silly, but that's okay. Not that big a deal. They have made him what he is. They correspond exactly to his own faculties. They are all ultimately of equal importance. The fact that he is what he is, the fact that he is what he is proves that each item is equilibrated. The impact of each new impression affects the entire system in due measure. He must therefore realize that every event is subject to him. It occurs because he had need of it. Iron rusts because the molecules demand oxygen for the satisfaction of their tendencies. They do not crave hydrogen. Therefore, combination with that gas is an event which does not happen. All experiences contribute to make us complete in ourselves. We feel ourselves subject to them so long as we fail to recognize this. When we do, we perceive that they are subject to us. And right in there, he's giving you a pretty big key for sure. And whenever we strive to evade an experience, whatever it may be, where thereby we thereby do wrong to ourselves, we thwart our own tendencies. To live is to change, and to oppose change is to revolt against the law which we have enacted to govern our lives. To resent destiny is thus to abdicate our sovereignty, and to invoke death. Indeed, we have decreed the doom of death for every breach of the law of life, and every failure to incorporate any impression starves the particular faculty which stood in need of it. This section B invokes air in the east with a shaft of golden glory. Section C. The adept now invokes fire in the south. Flame red are the rays that burst from his veranda. And he has that as Latin, meaning thing to be revered or awesome thing, sometimes indicating sex organs. It also has the sense of wand. Huh. Section D. He invokes water in the west, his wand billowing forth blue radiance. Section E. He goes to the north to invoke earth. Flowers of green flame flash from his weapon. As practice makes the adept perfect in his work, it becomes automatic to attach all these complicated ideas and intentions to their correlated words and acts. When this is attained, he may go deeper into the formula by amplifying its correspondences. Thus, he may invoke water in the manner of water, extending his will with majestic and irresistible motion, mindful of its impulsive gravitation, yet with a suave and tranquil appearance of weakness. Again, he may apply the formula of water to its peculiar purpose as it surges back into his sphere, using it with conscious skill for the cleansing and calming of the receptive and emotional elements in his character, and for the solution or sweeping away of those tangled weeds of prejudice which hamper him from freedom to act as he will. Similar applications of the remaining invocations will occur to the adept who is ready to use them. Section F. The adept now returns to the Tiferet square of his Tao and invokes spirit, facing toward Bullskin. By the active pentagrams, the sigil called the Mark of the Beast, see Liber 5, and the signs of LVX, which is that, which we got in, what one was that one? And why can't I think of the one right now? I know what one. It's the one, Libero. In Libero, he gives us that LVX formula, and the Mark of the Beast is the one that looks like the sun with the moon underneath it. He then vibrates the names, extending his will in the same way as before, but vertically upward. At the same time, he expands the source of that will, the secret symbol of self, both about him and below, as if to affirm that self, duplex as it duplex as is its form, reluctant to acquiesce in its failure to coincide with the sphere of Nuit. Let him now imagine at the last word that the head of his will, where his consciousness is fixed, opens its fissure. The Brahmaran the Brahmarandra chakra, at the juncture of the cranial sutures, and exudes a drop of clear crystalline dew, and that this pearl is his soul, a virgin offering to his angel, pressed forth from his being by the intensity of his aspiration. Section FF. With these words, the adept does not withdraw his will within him as in the previous sections. He thinks of them as a reflection of truth on the surface of the dew, where his soul hides trembling. He takes them to be the first formulation in his consciousness of the nature of his holy guardian angel. Line 1. The gods include all the conscious elements of his nature. Line 2. The universe includes all possible phenomena of which he can be aware. Line 3. The winds are his thoughts, which have prevented him from attaining to his angel. Well, shoot. Line 4. His angel has made voice, the magical weapon which produces words, and these words have been the wisdom by which he hath created all things. This voice is necessary as the link between the adept and his angel. The angel is king, the one who can, the source of authority and the fount of honor. Also, the king or king's son who delivers the enchanted princess and makes her his queen. He is ruler, the unconscious will, to be thwarted no more by the ignorant and capricious false will of the conscious man. And he is helper, the author of the infallible impulse that sends the soul sweeping along the skies on its proper path with such impetus that the attraction of alien orbs is no longer sufficient to swerve it. Huh. The hear me clause is now uttered by the normal human consciousness, withdrawn to the physical body. The adept must deliberately abandon his attainment because it is not yet his whole being which burns up before the beloved. I need a drink. Section G. The adept, though withdrawn, shall have maintained the extension of his symbol. He now repeats the signs as before, save that he makes the passive invoking pentagram of spirit. He concentrates his consciousness within his twin symbol of self and endeavors to send it to sleep. But if the operation be performed properly, his angel shall have accepted the offering of dew and seized with fervor upon the extended symbol of will towards himself. This then shall he shake vehemently with vibrations of love, reverberating with the words of the section. Even in the physical ears of the adept there shall resound an echo thereof, yet he shall not be able to describe it. It shall seem both louder than thunder and softer than the whisper of the night wind. It shall at once be inarticulate and mean more than he hath ever heard. Now let him strive with all the strength of his soul to withstand the will of his angel, concealing himself in the closest cell of the citadel of consciousness. Let him consecrate himself to resist the assault of the voice and the vibration until his consciousness faint away into nothing. For if there abide unabsorbed even one single atom of the false ego, that atom should stain the virginity of the true self and profane the oath. Then that atom should be so inflamed by the approach of the angel that it should overwhelm the rest of the mind, tyrannize over it, and become an insane despot to the total ruin of the realm. So that's also something that reading Liber first is emphasizing. Not one thought, not one drop. Pour it all into the grail of Our Lady. but all being dead to sense, who then is able to strive against the angel. He shall intensify the stress of his spirit so that his loyal legions of lion serpents leap from the ambush, awakening the adept to witness their will, and sweep him with them in their enthusiasm, so that he consciously partakes their purpose, and sees in its simplicity the solution of all his perplexities. Thus then shall the adept be aware that he is being swept away through the column of his will symbol, and that his angel is indeed himself, with intimacy so intense as to become identity, and that not a single ego, but in every unconscious element that shares in that manifold uprush. This rapture is accompanied by a tempest of brilliant light, almost always, and also in many cases by an outburst of sound, stupendous and sublime in all cases, though its character may vary within wide limits. These phenomena are not wholly subjective. They may be perceived, though often under other forms, by even the ordinary man. The spate of stars shoots from the head of the will symbol and is scattered over the sky in glittering galaxies. This dispersion destroys the concentration of the adept, whose mind cannot master such multiplicity of majesty. As a rule, he simply sinks stunned into normality, to recall nothing of his experience but a vague, though vivid, impression of complete release and ineffable rapture. Repetition fortifies him to realize the nature of his attainment. And his angel, the link once made, frequents him and trains him subtly to be sensitive to his holy presence and persuasion. But it may occur, especially after repeated success, that the adept is not flung back into his mortality by the explosion of the star spate, but identified with one particular lion serpent, continuing conscious thereof until it finds its proper place in space, when its secret self flowers forth as a truth, which the adept may then take back to the earth with him. This is but a side issue. The main purpose of the ritual is to establish the relation of the subconscious self with the angel in such a way that the adept is aware that his angel is the unity which expresses the sum of the elements of that self, that his normal consciousness contains alien enemies introduced by the accidents of environment, and that his knowledge and conversation of his holy guardian angel destroys all doubts and delusions, confers all blessings, teaches all truth, and contains all delights. But it is important that the adept should not rest in mere inexpressible realization of his rapture, but rouse himself to make the relation submit to analysis, to render it in rational terms, and thereby enlighten his mind and heart in a sense as superior to fanatical enthusiasm as Beethoven's music is to West African wardrobes. How we doing? Everybody hanging in there? Where are we at? 84 minutes. That's not bad. Hour and 20 so far. Well, we'll keep moving. At least through this. I think we're almost done with this part. Yeah, and then there's point 3. Okay. So let's get this part done at least, and then we'll look in on some. Section GG. The adept should have realized that his active union with the angel implies 1. The death of his old mind, save insofar as his unconscious elements preserve its memory when they absorb it, and 2, the death of his unconscious elements themselves, but their death is rather a going forth to renew their life through love. He then, by conscious comprehension of them separately and together, becomes the angel of his angel, as Hermes is the word of Zeus, whose own voice is thunder. Thus, in this section, the adept utters articulately so far as words may, what his angel is to himself. He says this with his with his Scyllaica. I don't know. That's he says Norwegian, archaic, shining body, body of light. Okay. So he says this with his body of light, wholly withdrawn into his physical body, constraining his angel to indwell his heart. Line 1. I am he asserts the destruction of the sense of separateness between self and self. Notice here he has self and self. One is capitalized and the other isn't. It affirms existence, but of the third person only. The bornless spirit is free of all space, having sight in the feet, that they may choose their own path. Strong is GBR, I think that's supposed to be Gibura, the magician escorted by the sun and the moon. Maybe not. He says C, Liber D, and Liber 777. Okay. The immortal fire is the creative self. Impersonal energy cannot perish, no matter what forms it assumes. Combustion is love. Line 2. Truth is the necessary relation of any two things. Therefore, although it implies duality, it enables us to conceive of two things as being one thing such that it demands to be defined by complementals. Thus, a hyperbola is a simple idea, but its construction exacts two curves. Line 3. The angel, as the adept knows him, is a being in Tiferet, which obscures Kether. The adept is not officially aware of the higher Sephiroth. He cannot perceive, like the Ipsissimus, that all things soever are equally illusion and equally absolute. He is in Tifereth, whose office is redemption, and he deplores the events which have caused the apparent sorrow from which he has just escaped. He is also aware, even in the height of his ecstasy, of the limits and defects of his attainment. Line 4. This refers to the phenomena which accompany his attainment. Line 5. This means the recognition of the angel as the true self of his subconscious self, the hidden life of his physical life. Line 6. The adept realizes every breath, every word of his angel as charged with creative fire. Tifereth is the sun, and the angel is the spiritual son of the soul of the adept. Line 7. Here is summed the entire process of bringing the conditioned universe to knowledge of itself through the formula of generation. He says that is Yod He, realizing themselves will and understanding in the twins Vau He, mind and body. A soul implants itself in a sense hoodwinked, body and reason fettered mind, makes them aware of their inmate, and thus to partake of its own consciousness of light. Line 8. Grace has here its proper sense of pleasantness. The existence of the angel is the justification of the device of creation. And he says, but see also the general solution of the riddle of existence in the book of the law and its commentaries. Line 9. This line must be studied in the light of Liber LXV. What's he say? Equinox 3. Okay. Is that one in here? I don't remember if that one's in here or not. So I might need to print that one out and read it for us too. I don't see it. Okay. Okay, I'll take a look at that for us. Because he's referenced it enough times in here. And off the top, I don't know which one that one is. Section H. Actually, you know what? Here, I'm gonna search real quick and see if I can't find it. Liber. Liber cordis cinti serpente sub figura Adonai. How long is it? That's not terrible. I'm not going to read it right now. We're already in the middle of a big old one, but just so we know. Okay, so we'll probably mix that one in here sometime in the near future, since he has referenced it enough times. Coop, if you're still here, have you read that one? Liber LXV? Section H. This recapitulation demands the going forth together of the adept and his angel, to do their pleasure on the earth among the living. Section J. The B666, having devised the present method of using this ritual, having proved it by his own practice to be of infallible puissance when properly performed, and now having written it down for the world, it shall be an ornament for the adept who adopts it to cry hail to his name at the end of his work. This shall moreover encourage him in magic to recall that indeed there was one who attained by its use to the knowledge and conversation of his holy guardian angel, which forsook him no more, but made him a magus, the word of the aeon of Horus. For know this, that the name Iao in its most secret and mighty sense declareth the formula of the magic of the beast, whereby he wrought many wonders. And because he doth will that the whole world shall attain to this art. Now he now hideth it herein, so that the worthy may win to his wisdom. Let E and O face all. He says, if we adopt the new orthography Viaov, we must read the sun 6, the sun. Oh, so the sun like in the sky 6, and then the sun like your child, etc. for all, and elaborate this interpretation here given in other ways accordingly. Thus O, or the F, will not be the hierophant, but the devil, the I, Baphomet, etc. 15 by function instead of 5, etc. And in act free, firm, aspiring, ecstatic, rather than gentle, etc., as in the present text. So let E and O face all, yet ward their awe from attack, the hermit to himself, the fool to foes, the hierophant to friends. 9 by nature, naught by attainment, 5 by function. In speech swift, subtle, and secret. In thought creative, unbiased, unbounded. In act gentle, patient, persistent. Hermes to hear, Dionysus to touch, Pan to behold, a virgin, a babe, and a beast, a liar, an idiot, and a master of men, a kiss, a guffaw, and a bellow. He that hath ears to hear, let him hear. Take 10 that be one, and one that is one in 3 to conceal them in 6. That there's going to be some Kabbalistic type, so think Kabbalistically. The wand to all cups, and thy disc to all swords, but betray not thine egg. Moreover also is Iao verily 666 by virtue of number, and this is a mystery of mysteries. Who knoweth it, he is adept of adepts, and mighty among magicians. Got it. Gotcha. Now, this word, Sabao, being by number 70, and he says there is an alternative spelling, Sabao, with the looks like it would be like a Zadi, a TZ, where the root and host has the value of 93. The practicus should revise this ritual throughout in the light of his personal researches in the Kabbalah, and thus make it his own peculiar property. The spelling here suggested implies that he who utters the word affirms his allegiance to the symbols 93 and 6, that he is a warrior in the army of will and of the sun. 93 is also the number of Iwas and 6 of the beast. So now this word Sabao by the number being by number 3 score and 10 is the name of Oyen, the eye, and the devil, our Lord, and the goat of Mendes. He is the Lord of the Sabbath of the adepts, and is Satan, therefore also the son whose number of magic is 666, the seal of his servant the beast. But again, Sa is 61. Ein, the naught of Nuit, Ba means go for Hadid, and O is their son, the son, who is Rahor. So then, let the adept set his sigil upon all the words he hath writ in the book of the works of his will, and let him then end all, saying, Such are the words. And he says here, the consonants of, I don't know all that in Greek. He says, word add Hebrew values to 93, and words whence epic has also that value. Behold the words might be the phrase here intended. Its number is 418. This would then assert the accomplishment of the great work. This is the natural conclusion of the ritual. So, and let him then end all, saying, Such are the words. For by this he maketh proclamation before all them that be about his circle, that these words are true and puissant, binding what he would bind, and loosing what he would loose. Let the adept perform this ritual aright, perfect in every part thereof, once daily for 1 moon, then twice at dawn and dusk for 2 moons, next thrice, noon added for 3 moons, afterwards midnight making up his course, for 4 moons 4 times every day. Then let the 11th moon be consecrated wholly to this work. Let him be instant in continual ardor, dismissing all but his sheer needs to eat and sleep. Now we got some serious footnotes here coming up. He says these needs are modified during the process of initiation, both as to quantity and quality. One should not become anxious about one's physical or mental health on a priori grounds, but pay attention only to indubitable symptoms of distress should such arise. For know that the true formula, whose virtue sufficed the beast in this attainment, was this. Coop already said it. Invoke often. And oh crap. Okay, so he had up here for know that the true formula, and that's this bigger footnote. I thought it was just this part, but it's actually the whole thing. So he's talking about the oracles of Zoroaster utter this. And when, by invoking often, all the phantasms are vanished, thou shalt see that holy and formless fire, that fire which darts and flashes through all the depths of the universe. Hear thou the voice of the fire. A similar fire flashingly extended through the rushings of air, or a fire formless, whence cometh the image of a voice, or even a flashing light abounding, revolving, whirling forth, crying aloud. Also there is the vision of the fire flashing, courser of light, or also a child borne aloft on the shoulders of the celestial seed, fiery or clothed with gold, or naked, or shooting with the bow shaft of light, and standing on the shoulders of the horse. Then, if thy meditation prolongeth itself, thou shalt unite all these symbols into the form of a lion. This passage, combined with several others, is paraphrased in poetry by Aleister Crowley in his Tannhauser. And when invoking often, thou shalt see that formless fire, when all the earth is shaken, the stars abide not, and the moon is gone, all time crushed back into eternity, the universe by earthquake overtaken, light is not, and the thunders roll, the world is done, when in the darkness chaos rolls again, in the excited brain. Then, oh, then call not to thy view that visible image of nature, fatal is her name. It fitteth not thy body to behold that living light of hell, the luminous dead flame, the unluminous dead flame, until that body from the crucible hath passed pure gold. For from the confines of material space, the twilight moving place, the gates of matter and the dark threshold, before the faces of the things that dwell in the abodes of night, spring into sight, demons dog-faced that show no mortal sign of truth, but desecrate the light divine, seducing from the sacred mysteries. But after all these folk of fear are driven before the avenging leaven, that rivers the or that rives the opening skies. Behold that formless and that holy flame, that hath no name, that fire that darts and flashes, rides and creeps, snake-wise in royal robe, wound round that varnished, wound round that vanished glory of the globe, unto that sky beyond the starry deeps, beyond the toils of time, then formulate in thine own mind, luminous, concentrate, the lion of the light, a child that stands on the vast shoulders of the steed of God, or winged, or shooting flying shafts, or shod with the flame sandal. Then lift up thine hands, center thee in thine heart one scarlet thought, limpid with brilliance of the light above, drawn into naught all life, death, hatred, love, all self concentrated in the soul desire. Hear thou the voice of fire. Okay, so, yep, he says invoke often. So may all men come at last to the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. Thus saith the beast, and prayeth his own angel that this book be as a burning lamp, and as a living spring for light and life to them that read therein. 666. Okay, and then that puts us into point 3. So let me see how long that is. So I might want to make that a part 2. It's not that long. It's not that long. We're just going to read it. We're just going to do it all in one session. But I better grab me another drink. So I'll do that, and then we're going to finish this up. And then that's not bad, like 2 hours. It'll probably be about 2 hours because this one was actually only a few pages, so we got through the real meat of it. Much love to you all who've been rocking with it. Or even if you just popped in but you had to go and take care of other business, well, much love to you for coming to it when you come to it, finding it when you find it. Know that it is your own angel who has guided you to do such. And maybe some of you don't really feel called to this, or at least this method, but you do feel like you want to achieve a deeper connection of the self, which is just kind of what Crowley calls the holy guardian angel, the self, the capital S self. So that's why I'm gonna hit you with some other methods too. So don't think that I'm saying that this Crowley way is the only way. It's definitely a pretty tried and true way, though. I mean, plenty and plenty of Thelemites and even just other random people who have got their hands on Crowley stuff have had success with these methods. Mmm, tasty. If any of y'all are wondering, it's the Alani Dream Float. That's that orange cream energy. Delicious. Give it a try if you haven't yet. Because I need a little caffeine so I can zip through this last bit. Okay, let's do it. Excuse me. Okay, point 3, Scolion on sections G and GG. The adept who has mastered this ritual, successfully realizing the full import of this controlled rapture, ought not to allow his mind to loosen its grip on the astral imagery of the star spat, or the star spate, will symbol, or soul symbol, or even to forget its duty to the body and the sensible surroundings. Nor should he omit to keep his body of light in close touch with the phenomena of its own plane, so that its privy consciousness may fulfill its proper functions of protecting his scattered ideas from obsession. But he should have acquired, by previous practice, the faculty of detaching these elements of his consciousness from their articulate center, so that they become temporarily independent, responsible units, capable of receiving communications from headquarters at will, but perfectly able, one, to take care of themselves without troubling their chief, and two, to report to him at the proper time. In a figure, they must be like subordinate officers, expected to display self reliance, initiative, and integrity in the execution of the orders of the day. The adept should therefore be able to rely on these individual minds of his to control their own conditions without interference from himself for the time required, and to recall them in due course, receiving an accurate report of their adventures. This being so, the adept will be free to concentrate his deepest self, that part of him which unconsciously orders his true will, upon the realization of his holy guardian angel. The absence of his bodily, mental, and astral consciousness is indeed cardinal to success, for it is their usurpation of his attention which has made him deaf to his soul, and his preoccupation with their affairs that has prevented him from perceiving that soul. So here's a quick little digression. Think about Solomon, right? What do we know? What kind of things we know about Solomon, and specifically the demon who did that to him, Asmodeus, right? Asmodeus, it was said for a time that temporarily Asmodeus took over Solomon and took over his throne and all of that. Got basically, and so that's kind of what this is saying right here. Usurping. Anybody who doesn't know what usurping is, that means that you march right in and kill the king and make yourself king. Solomon ended up reeling it in, but oh boy, that let some of those stories really be a testament to kind of what you're getting yourself into with some of these type of spirits. You know what I mean? They are meant for you to attain, that's for sure. But I think too many people are just letting them run their show, and that's a no-no. All right. The effect of the ritual has been A, to keep them so busy with their own work that they cease to distract him. B, to separate them so completely that his soul is stripped of its sheaths. C, C, to arouse in him an enthusiasm so intense as to intoxicate and anesthetize him, that he may not feel and resent the agony of this spiritual vivisection, just as bashful lovers get drunk on the wedding night in order to brazen out the intensity of shame which so mysteriously coexists with their desire. D, to concentrate the necessary spiritual forces from every element and fling them simultaneously into the aspiration towards the holy guardian angel. And E, to attract the angel by the vibration of the magical voices which invoke him. The method of the ritual is thus manifold. There is firstly an analysis of the adept, which enables him to calculate his course of action. He can decide what must be banished, what purified, what concentrated. He can then concentrate his will upon its one essential element, overcoming its resistance, which is automatic, like a physiological reflex, by destroying inhibitions through his ego overwhelming enthusiasm. And he has the footnote for that. A high degree of initiation is required. This means that the process of analysis must have been carried out very thoroughly. The adept must have become aware of his deepest impulses and understood their true significance. The resistance here mentioned is automatic. It increases indefinitely against direct pressure. It is useless to try to force oneself in these matters. The uninitiated aspirant, however eagerly he may be, is sure to fail. One must know how to deal with each internal idea as it arises. It is impossible to overcome one's inhibitions by conscious effort. Their existence justifies them. God is on their side, as on that of the victim in Browning's Instans Tyrannus. A man cannot compel himself to love, however much he may want to, on various rational grounds. But on the other hand, when the true impulse comes, it overwhelms all its critics. They are confounded in a common oblivion. Public opinion is powerless either to make or break a genius. It can only testify to the fact that it has met its master. Okay, there it was. The other half of the work needs no such complex effort, for his angel is simple and unperplexed, ready at all times to respond to rightly ordered approach. But the results of the ritual are too various to permit of rigid description. One may say that, presuming the union to be perfect, the adept need not retain any memory soever of what has occurred. He may be merely aware of a gap in his conscious life, and judge of its contents by observing that his nature has been subtly transfigured. Such an experience might indeed be the proof of perfection. If the adept is to be anywise conscious of his angel, it must be that some part of his mind is prepared to realize the rapture, and to express it to itself in one way or another. This involves the perfection of that part, its freedom from prejudice and the limitations of rationality so called. For instance, one could not conceive the illumination as to the nature of life which the doctrine of evolution should shed, if one is passionately persuaded that humanity is essentially not animal, or convinced that causality is repugnant to reason. The adept must be ready for the utter destruction of his point of view on any subject, and even that of his innate conception of the forms and laws of thought. And another footnote from that one, he says, of course, even false tenets and modes of the mind are in one sense true. It is only their appearance which alters. Copernicus did not destroy the facts of nature or change the instruments of observation. He merely effected a radical simplification of science. Error is really a fool's knot. Moreover, the very tendency responsible for the entanglement is one of the necessary elements of the situation. Nothing is wrong in the end, and one cannot reach the right point of view without the aid of one's particular wrong point. If we reject or alter the negative of a photograph, we shall not get a perfect positive. Thus, he may find that his angel considers his business or his love to be absurd trifles. Also, that human ideas of time are invalid, and human laws of logic applicable only to the relations between illusions. Now, the angel will make contact with the adept at any point that is sensitive to his influence. Such a point will naturally be one that is salient in the adept's character, and also one that is, in the proper sense of the word, pure. This means free from ideas, however excellent in themselves, which are foreign to it. For instance, literary interest has no proper place in a picture. Thus, an artist, attuned to appreciate plastic beauty, is likely to receive a visual impression of his angel in a physical form which is sublimely quintessential of his ideal. A musician, a musician may be rapt away by majestic melodies such as he never hoped to hear. A philosopher may attain apprehension of tremendous truths, the solution of problems that had baffled him all his life. Conformably with this doctrine, we read of illuminations experienced by simple minded men, such as a workman who saw God and likened him to a quantity of little pears. Again, we know that ecstasy, impinging upon unbalanced minds, inflames the idolized idea and produces fanatical faith fierce even to frenzy, with intolerance and insanely disordered energy, which is yet so powerful as to affect the destinies of empires. Yowza. But the phenomena of the knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel are a side issue. The essence of the union is the intimacy. This intimacy, or rather identity, is independent of all partial forms of expression. At its best, it is therefore as inarticulate as love is. The intensity of the consummation will more probably compel a sob or a cry, some natural physical gesture of animal sympathy with the spiritual spasm. This is to be criticized as incomplete self control. Silence is nobler. In any case, the adept must be in communion with his angel, so that his soul is suffused with sublimity or sublimity, whether intelligible or not in terms of intellect. It is soul, especially at oh, I think I skipped. Yeah, it is evident that the stress of such spiritual possession must tend to overwhelm the soul, especially at first. It actually suffers from the excess of its ecstasy, just as extreme love produces vertigo. The soul sinks and swoons. Such weakness is fatal alike to its enjoyment and its apprehension. Be strong, then canst thou bear more joy, saith the book of the law. And he says, consult moreover in the book of the law, chapter 2, verses 61 to 68, where the details of a proper technique are discussed. The adept must therefore play the man, arousing himself to harden his soul. To this end, I, the beast, have made trial and proof of divers devices. Of these, the most potent is to set the body to strive with the soul. Let the muscles take grip on themselves as if one were wrestling. Let the jaw and mouth, in particular, be tightened to the utmost. Breathe deeply, slowly, yet strongly. Keep mastery over the mind by muttering forcibly and audibly. But lest such muttering tend to disturb communion with the angel, speak only his name. Until the adept have heard that name, therefore, he may not abide in the perfect possession of his beloved. His most important task is thus to open his ears to the voice of his angel, that he may know him, how he is called. For hearken, this name, understood rightly and fully, declareth the nature of the angel in every point. Wherefore also that name is the formula of the perfection to which the adept must aspire, and also of the power of magic by virtue whereof he must work. He then that is as yet ignorant of that name. Let him repeat a word worthy of this particular ritual. Such are abrahadabra, the word of the aeon, which signifieth the great work accomplished, and Amen, already interpreted in part 3 of this book. He says down here, but he still has more to say about it down here. He says, the essence of this matter is that the word Om, which expresses the course of breath, spiritual life, from free utterance through controlled concentration to silence, is transmuted by the creation of the compound letter to replace M. That is, silence is realized as passing into continuous ecstatic vibration of the nature of love under will, as shown by 40 plus 3 plus 50 equals 93. In that, even though that's Greek, so I'm assuming that's the MGN right there, because I think that might be gamma, but I gotta really lock in that Greek. Talk to me again in a year and we'll see. And then he has whatever more in Greek here. I wish he would put a translation. I know that one's the lemma, so 93 equals whatever that one is, which equals the lemma, etc. And the whole word has the value of 100. Perfection perfected, the unity and completion, and equivalent to kaf pay, so that's got to be kappa phi, maybe I think it is, maybe in Greek. The conjunction of the essential male and female principles. Well, that's the most important part there. So it's equivalent to the conjunction of the essential male and female principles. Okay, so now I got to go back up here wherever I was. Yeah, up here, okay. And the name of the beast, for that his number showeth forth this union with the angel, and his work is no other than to make all men partakers of this mystery of the mysteries of magic. So then, saying this word or that, let the adept wrestle with his angel and withstand him, that he may constrain him to consent to continue in communion until the consciousness becomes capable of clear comprehension and of accurate transmission. And he says the normal intellect is incapable of these functions. A superior faculty must have been developed. As Zoroaster says, extend the void mind of thy soul to that intelligible, that thou mayest learn the intelligible, because it subsisteth beyond mind. Thou wilt not understand it as when understanding some common thing. Okay, so I better just redo that one because that's all one sentence. So then, saying this word or that, let the adept wrestle with his angel and withstand him, that he may constrain him to consent and to continue in communion until the consciousness becomes capable of clear comprehension and of accurate transmission of the transcendent truth of the beloved to the heart that holds him. The firm repetition of one of these words ought to enable the adept to maintain the state of union for several minutes, even at first. In any case, he must rekindle his ardor, esteeming his success rather as an encouragement to more ardent aspiration than as a triumph. He should increase his efforts. Let him beware of the lust of results, of expecting too much, of losing courage if his first success is followed by a series of failures. For success makes success seem so incredible that one is apt to create an inhibition fatal to subsequent attempts. One fears to fail. The fear intrudes upon, and I think that right there is a lot of the reason why a lot of people don't even want to get started with magic, or anything really somewhat challenging. It's just because you're afraid to fail. That's fine. Don't be worried. Most of the things aren't going to be so bad you can't recover from in life. But yeah, there definitely are some things, such as like getting mauled and eaten by a lion, that, well, that's a failure that's going to cost you big time. One fears to fail. The fear intrudes upon the concentration and so fulfills its own prophecy. We know how too much pleasure in a love affair makes one afraid to disgrace oneself on the next few occasions. Indeed, until familiarity has accustomed one to the idea that one's lover has never supposed one to be more than human. Confidence returns gradually. Inarticulate ecstasy is replaced by a more sober enjoyment of the elements of the fascination. Just so one's first dazzled delight in a new landscape turns, as one continues to gaze, to the to the appreciation of exquisite details of the view. At first, they were blurred by the blinding rush of general beauty. They emerge one by one as the shock subsides and passionate rapture yields to intelligent interest. In the same way, the adept almost always begins by torrential lyrics panting out mystical extravagances about ineffable love, unimaginable bliss, inexpressible infinities of illimitable utterness. And he says, this corresponds to the emotional and metaphysical fog which is characteristic of the emergence of thought from homogeneity. The clear and concise differentiation of ideas marks the adult mind. He usually loses his sense of proportion, of humor, of reality, and of sound judgment. His ego is often inflated to the bursting point, till he would be abjectly ridiculous if he were not so pitifully dangerous to himself and others. He also tends to take his newfound truths of illumination for the entire body of truth, and insists that they must be as valid and vital for all men as they happen to be for himself. It is wise to keep silence about those things, unlawful to utter, which one may have heard in the seventh heaven. This may not apply to the sixth. The adept must keep himself in hand, however tempted to make a new heaven and a new earth in the next few days by trumpeting his triumphs. He must give time a chance to redress his balance, sore shake, sore shaken by the impact of the infinite. As he becomes adjusted to intercourse with his angel, he will find his passionate ecstasy develop a quality of peace and intelligibility which adds power, while it informs and fortifies his mental and moral qualities instead of obscuring and upsetting them. He will by now have become able to converse with his angel, impossible as it once seemed, for he now knows that the storm of sound which he supposed to be the voice was only the clamor of his own confusions. The infinity nonsense was born of his own inability to think clearly beyond his limits, just as a bushman, confronted by numbers above five, can only call them many. The truth told by the angel, immensely as it extends the horizon of the adept, is perfectly definite and precise. It does not deal in ambiguities and abstractions. It possesses form, and confesses law in exactly the same manner and degree as any other body of truth. It is to the truth of the material and intellectual spheres of man very much what the mathematics of philosophy, with its infinite series and Cantorian continuity, is to schoolboy arithmetic. Each implies the other, though by that one may explore the essential nature of existence, and by this a pawnbroker's profits. This, then, is the true aim of the adept in this whole operation, to assimilate himself to his angel by continual conscious communion. For his angel is an intelligible image of his own true will, to do which is the whole of the law of his being. Also, the angel appeareth in Tifereth, which is the heart of the Ruach, and thus the center of gravity of the mind. It is also directly inspired from Kether, the ultimate self, through the path of the high priestess, or initiated intuition. Hence, the angel is in truth the logos, or articulate expression of the whole being of the adept, so that as he increases in the perfect understanding of his name, he approaches the solution of the ultimate problem, who he himself truly is. Unto this final attainment, the adept may trust his angel to lead him. For the Tifereth consciousness alone is connected by paths with the various parts of his mind. And he says, see the maps, the path and grades, and minutia mundum. Okay, sick. So luckily we had a little bit of a crash course on that with our QBL reading. So For anybody, which again isn't really most of you, but a couple of you who have just kind of popped in and stayed hanging out that I haven't seen in our other groups. We've already got a Kabbalah study in, so we've already seen that tree of life, Tiferet, the way that, you know, all roads lead to Tiferet, basically. And he says, okay, that was about it that we needed from that one. None, therefore, save he hath the knowledge requisite for calculating the combinations of conduct which will organize and equilibrate the forces of the adept against the moment when it becomes necessary to confront the abyss. The adept must control a compact and coherent mass if he is to make sure of hurling it from him with a clean-cut gesture. I, the B666, lift up my voice and swear that I myself have been brought hither by mine angel, after that I had attained unto the knowledge and conversation of him, by virtue of mine ardor towards him, and of this ritual that I bestow upon men my fellows, and most of his great love that he beareth to me. Yea, verily, he led me to the abyss. He bade me fling away all that I had and all that I was, and he forsook me in that hour. But when I came beyond the abyss to be reborn within the womb of Babylon, then came he unto me, abiding in my virgin heart, its Lord and lover. Also, he made me a magus, speaking through his law the word of the new aeon, the aeon of the crowned and conquering child. Thus he fulfilled my will to bring full freedom to the race of men. Yea, he wrought also in me a work of wonder beyond this. But in this matter I am sworn to hold my peace. All right, we did it. 132 minutes. Speaking of Asmodeus. Oh, here. So here's a glyph of the tree of life, too. So for anybody who's not familiar, that angel is going to be basically residing in these spheres, Kether and Tifereth, and which is the crown and then the sun, and connected by this path here, 13, which is represented by the High Priestess card in the tarot. And then it's crossed also by these paths, which are the Empress here at 14, and then this one here, Strength. And in the traditional representation of the Strength card, as we learned from Gareth Knight, that image is actually the spirit, that highest aspect of that holy guardian angel. Well, really, the holy guardian angel brushing the teeth of the lion, which is the soul. So a lot of people think that that's actually what could be considered like the higher self, the soul, and then your animal self, so your human self. But it's realistically it's the HGA, or the spirit, and then the soul. All right then. Well, goodness gracious, that was a good one. That took us not as long as I thought, actually. Just over 2 hours. I was worried that we might be creeping into 3. So that's not so bad. I've certainly sat for longer. Holy heck. Although with as sore a little bit as I'm feeling, I'm like, man, how did I do that 6 hour Dion Fortune, man? Guess I just pushed through. That's what we do. We push through. We make it work, huh? So there you have it. There is Liber Samekh. There is the invocations, the explanation of the invocation, the explanation of the HGA from the Beast 666. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And I think I'm going to go ahead and hop into our next book next. I don't know if I'm gonna do any more Libers for at least a little brief time, or maybe I'll do the thing where I'll pop in. I don't know. I'll just pop in randomly with a couple more Libers because I do want to hit that Liber LXB since he referenced it so many times. And I want to read you guys One Star in Sight, which will be a real short one. I mean, that's gonna be another like 10-minute one. But for those of you who are wondering what the next book I'm gonna read is, well, it's going to be in this vein. It's going to be a theme similar to this. And I have it right here. So I'll show you. So for anybody who made it this far, I should have said it at the beginning, but that's all right. That's all right. So go ahead and pick this one up to read along. We're going to read The Imitation of Christ by Thomas à Kempis. I've never read this one, but I've heard very great things about this one. So, in that HGA theme, since that's the kind of the Western world, that should be the Western world's image of that for the most part. That's what we're going to go ahead and read. So hopefully you'll grab a copy. It's real cheap. I think it was like $5 or something, if I remember right, and read along. It's going to be one that's going to be worth having on your shelves, that's for sure. And then I don't think I got much more to say. The book said it all. Liber Samekh said it all. I will, as I said already, I will link Lon Milo Duquette, what he has to say about this, and from in his book, and just some of his digressions that are pretty helpful as well. So look for that in the description of this video. And other than that, I'll plan to see you probably tomorrow to start this other one, to start The Imitation of Christ. So much love to you all. May you all attain unto the knowledge and conversation and the union of your holy guardian angel. May you all attain your true wills. I appreciate you all very much. And I'm grateful for all of your contributions to this channel and to this effort that we're making over here. So much love. This has been Jay Baldale. This has been Aleister Crowley's Liber Samekh. And that's going to do it. If you're new, if you made it through this longer stream and you really enjoyed this, be sure to hit a like, share, and subscribe. If you have anything to say one way or another, be sure to drop it in the comments. I'll check it out. That's it. That's going to do it. I'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.